So our speaker today is Jack Sprague. He's been an archaeologist in Kern County for 25 years. He retired, it sounds like, about 3 years ago and is now volunteering both with the Heritage Foundation out at the Hanning Flat area here in the Kern River Valley, and also spends a lot of time apparently as the guide to some beautiful rock art sites at the Wind Wolves Preserve southwest of Bakersfield. Jack grew up in Tehachapi and originally retired as an engineer. And I think that's probably enough. I'll go ahead and, Jack, thank you for coming today.
Good morning. Let me get this turned on.
We good on the volume? Okay. All right, so as you know now, I'm Jack Sprague. We're going to be talking about rock art in the area here. What I'm going to try to do is show you a little bit of the style that is here, or maybe the theme. Let's talk first of all a little bit about maybe educational things in site stewardship. These sites are pretty sensitive. This particular site here we're going to show first is on private property, and they are very good stewards of the land and of archaeology, and they do tours there. So I will be giving the location of that. The other locations I will not be giving. We'll fix that in just a second also. The idea is to educate people about the rock art and archaeology in general. And some of the main things that know, as I'm sure everybody knows here, is you don't leave trash at the sites. You don't touch the rock art. There are programs with BLM and Forest Service about setting up site stewards, so you can take a little ownership over the site. I'm all behind that. It also gives the site visitation. Visitation to very sensitive sites is probably not good. But the sites that aren't as sensitive, visitation actually provides monitoring. So people, if there is a change, it's seen, and also if the bad guys out there are going to be doing something, the good people are coming around, so it makes it very hard for them to get on to do things. So in the future, I think that this would be a good group to get into some kind of a stewardship program for the art sites up here. That would be probably more through Tim Kelly and Amy Gerard would be out. Tim's with Forest Service and Amy's with BLM. Those are the two local archaeologists. Okay, has everybody here seen pictographs? Has anybody not seen a pictograph? Okay. So we have a number of different things under the realm of rock art up here. And mostly up here it's pictograph and petroglyphs. We also have geoglyphs and intaglios, which are geoglyphs and intaglios are rock alignments. We don't have, the closest one is in Red Rock. We don't have anything here like that, but we do have petroglyphs, very few. Once we hit the desert, we have a lot of petroglyphs. So what we have here is pictographs. So the difference is a pictograph is painted. It's pictograph, it's a picture or a graph, painted. A petroglyph is actually pecked into the rock, chiseled, degraded, or scratched, so it's set deep into the rock. Most of the time when we'll get touch dating here in a few minutes, but when they try to attempt to date these, the petroglyphs are probably much older. Just to kind of give you a ballpark rate, they can go from anywhere from about 1,000 to about 6,000 years generally. The pictographs are newer. Some, in dating skeptical on them, some of them could be between 300 and 1,000. This particular site that I had up there, we'll pull up in a minute when I start doing the slides. They think some of the elements there are about 2,000 years old. I'm not sure on that. I did leave a journal with Gene back here that will be in file that does the description of this by Dr. Gold. So very rarely do we have pictographs and petroglyphs together on the same panel or rock. But in some cases we do have pictographs that have been painted. So where they've chiseled it out, they come back and they paint over and referred to as a painted petroglyph. In the early recordings in the 40s, they called pictographs painted petroglyphs. But a painted petroglyph is actually a petroglyph that has been vectored or chiseled in and then painted over. Okay, so some of the questions that are asked are, who made it? Well, that's a really hard one to say who actually made it. But in this case, we're going to give credit to the Chubatabal, however you want to pronounce that. Was it made by the shaman? Was it made by a man, a woman, or a child? That we don't really know. We would suggest that it was made by somebody with a power or spirituality over the society or tribe. More of somebody on the scientific end. And I'll kind of show that in my illustrations because we have a lot of solar significance going on up here with these pictographs, a lot of linear stuff. The next question is asked is, how old is it? That's a really hard one because we normally date the pictographs by the associated artifacts that we get in our excavation. So we could have an excavation, and as you know, we're digging down, and we could start up here and find out that, you know, we're getting artifacts that are a couple hundred years old. So we go deeper, we may find there was nothing for hundreds of years, and then back 1,000 years ago they were here with artifacts for, you know, hundreds of years, and then the ground was sterile. So we know they occupied that area. So that gives us a window about this big for all of the dating, because we're using different artifacts and we're getting multiple, this is called generation of vintage artifacts. There is a couple other ways. The petroglyphs, you can, they take a thin set cut, and to date any of these, we do have to do some damage to it, and that's what we're pretty much against. But in a petroglyph, you can go maybe to a small area. You can take a little thin set, send it to the lab, and it's so small you don't see it. And they can look at the patina on the rock versus the new patina, or the desert varnish that's built up over the petroglyph, and they can come up with this mathematical date that trends in number, you know, plus or minus 100 years. It's a little controversial, somewhat skeptical, but it seems to trend a number. Pictographs are a little harder. You can do a C14 of the carbon dating on it, but we have to have a piece of it. And what we're doing is we're going to try to find the carbon that is in the binder with the paint. And it takes quite a bit to do. So what I've done in the past, especially on when it was preserved, is when we had pieces that exfoliated the pictograph and fell off. We collected enough. They get sent to the Getty Foundation. They do their analysis and they run through a C14 and try to give us a date. Unfortunately, those, we didn't have enough organic binder to come up with the date. Okay. If there is questions that come up while I'm talking, and you know, you raise your hand and I can step back or address things. Everybody looks very concerned and nobody looks questionable. Okay.
Well, Jack, one of the things we did at History Days, not this year but last, is that we had Carrie Gallion actually mix paints using the binders as she understood it that were being used, and then painted some rocks for us. And then went into some on how they mined those pigments and whatnot, and it was really interesting.
I'm going to lightly touch on that, but that's good stuff. It's called experimental archaeology. I've done it myself. I made the paints. Some of them disappeared in 2 or 3 years. It's all about the binder and the application and how it's sheltered. So if they're not exposed to the sun and the rain, they're going to disappear faster. If they're in a shelter, they're going to last longer. So the stuff like on the roofs of the shelter lasts the longest. Some things in the shelter that we have issues with is like up on Windwoods, I got up one morning on one of the sites we're working on, and I had a small bear cub in the cave, just scratching away at the pictograph. And I came back a little later, and the bear was in there, and he's licking the salt leach that sandstone off the pictograph. So over years, that bear probably destroyed a fair amount. Not to blame him, but so yeah, we have things of that nature.
You talked just a second ago about the painted petroglyphs.
Yes.
Would the folks that painted them, would those have been the same ones that created them, or do you think it was a different era? Or?
I couldn't tell you, but I would think that somebody came back later and painted over them. We also have on the pictographs a lot of touch-up and a lot of repainting. And then we have a lot of overpainting, to where they may have taken black charcoal and rubbed it out, and then drawn their new one over the top of it as a ceremony, or trying to block the power of the other one. Because these things had quite a mental effect on everybody back then. This was their only real way of writing in a picture form, and we do not know what it means. And that's my next question here is, what does it mean? We don't know. We can assume things. The issue is that we can't get into their mind. We're all neurologically wired the same, but we have things like TV, we have, religion and things of that nature, technology, so we look at things totally different. So when we see an element or a motif, automatically say, oh, that looks like Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck. That could have been something totally different to them. So we don't know what they mean. We can assume a few things. So what we're doing is doing an inventory of elements. And there's a lot of people in the rock art world working on that. And so you take your photos and you break them down. I have so many sunbursts, I have so many concentric circles, I have so many grids, I have so many of this, locations, all goes into a database. And then when people start crunching the numbers, they start seeing repeated patterns. So it's similar to when they cracked the hieroglyphics in Egypt. They worked on it for years. There's so much more of it there. But that was actually writing. This is a much simpler form of writing. You think that it would be easier to crack, but it's not, because we don't have as many exact repeated things. So what does it mean is really a hard one. The other thing is that a lot of people are under the impression that these were drawn under the influence of a drug, deter or gypsum weed. I'm sure everybody's heard that before. And that, the shaman took a wild trip and hallucinated and came back, or while he was on it. The deter or gypsum weed that was used, and mostly in the coming of age or puberty ceremonies for the young people, there's ethnographical records of one of them from Chumash that he was apparently the shaman. It administered to him. The boy was, blind for 3 days, crawling around, and hallucinating and everything else, almost dying. And then when he came out of it, he would tell the shaman what he saw, and they would give him his spirit helper name. So afterwards, they may have drawn some of these different things from what they saw in their visions, or maybe if they even did it's very similar to a vision quest and fasting and all that. So it's very hard to figure out what they actually mean, and I do not think they were drawn under the influence, because most of the time, if they were, the most common thing they used was the datura. You weren't functional. Now the tobacco they used here was also extremely strong, but it wasn't enough to alter you to not be able to paint. Okay, I need to put some glasses on because I'm struggling to see my notes. Okay, so let's talk a little about style or theme. The next big question is, well, what style's in this territory? And we have a style, to me, is more linear stuff than more sort of zoomorphic figures. It's really hard to give it a style because the pictograph elements or motifs we have here, they're everywhere else too, but there's more concentration of certain type stuff here. And we're going to start off with the first site and show you probably the most well-rounded, versatile site up here with a lot of elements that cover the area. And then we're just going to step north, we're just going to go through the hills behind us back here. And we're going to step to the next site north, and it's going to have no anthropomorphic or zoomorphic figures. It's going to be all more linear or rectilinear. I'll explain as we go through it. And then we're going to step to another site, and we're going to actually see where it appears that there's a solar effect on the site, and they're basically logging time in the sun's pattern. Okay, so these pictographs can have a spiritual and maybe ceremonial, or could possibly have a solar significance. And up here, the solar significance is, a lot of them have that, and have the same repeated elements. And it's not too hard to line up the sun and figure it out, by angles and looking at it. There's a bit of guesswork there, but once you apply the science, it either does or doesn't. And on the solar significance, there's two different types. One is direct, where they would be looking at, say, a mountain range, and the sun rises here in the winter, and then it moves itself all the way across to the equinox and all the way across to the summer, and then it comes back. And then you would take on your drawing, and you would draw the mirror image of that and work your little symbols on it. The other way is when they're in shelters, and there's so many of them out here, and I think that's why this is the most common, you get shadow effects. So when the sun would rise and when it would come across, say, the lip of a shelter, it would cast a shadow across, and they draw to that shadow. Now that shadow is going to move from the summer solstice to the winter solstice, and it's going to move, depending on the angle, in a matter of feet. Very evident of the progression on it. So if, and these people were into time and seasons off of the sun, as most Native Americans were. It's not a very hard thing to do. If your grandfather had figured out and done some basic painting in the cave and told your father, and your father told you, by the time you were 12 years old, you could be an expert on telling time and seasons. It's not very hard. And I think this was also utilized for, because they did do simple migration up deeper into the hills in the winter, because they'd be in the summer, because they'd be under snow in the winter, and then back down to a valley floor or a better area that was stable, collect the resources and bring them back. Okay, let's see. Let's talk about the actual elements or motifs. So we have geometric figures, and just take, at this point, maybe simple circles. We have anthropomorphic symbols, which are human-like. We have zoomorphic figures, animal-like. We have linear lines, paralleling lines, intersecting lines, and then we have something that the rock art world has cloned as rectilinear or curvilinear. And what these are symbols that are elements that have a linear effect to them. Let's just take the rectilinear as basically squares. It could be all squares tied together, or we have these ladder grids that go across. Curvilinear could be something that's linear this way with the edges curved, or it could be S's that are spaced perfect, so they're linear, but yet they have a curve to them. Let's see, the next we have quite a bit of abstract sun, things that abstract signs. We have a lot of stuff we think may be sun symbols, possibly. I'll explain those. We don't know for sure, but they sure appear to be, especially when they're on these grids. Some stars, possibly a map, and something else we have up here are handprints. There's quite a few handprints. Handprints fade right away. It seems to be using this program D-Stretch, which I'm going to be showing you. We're able to pull them out. And I've noticed that a lot of the handprints are in certain areas where there's a lot of them, and they're usually lower. But I'm picking up, especially as I get back out towards Onyx, Kelso, all that area out towards the desert, small handprints. And these people may have been a little bit smaller than us, but not a lot. But the ones last time we did is I measured children, my grandchildren, and they appear to be from about someone around 5 years old. They're small, perfect handprints. And so you count how many right, how many left, or whatever. I can't make heads or tails over it. When you get down into the Riverside area, around Paris down there, in Lake Paris, there's a lot of ethnographical records about handprints and the puberty ceremonies of the child coming of age. Same thing is going on here, which becomes a ceremonial or spiritual end of it. Okay, now we have panels and individual elements. A pictograph panel is something that's large enough to be a canvas to write on them normally smooth, but it's got separate elements all together on it. And the elements may tie together, and they may tell a story, or they may not. And that's the part that's hard to figure out. And until you've taken, thousands and thousands of photos, run them through the computer, and have the computer try to put everything back together, it's really hard to tell. Is this panel one big story, or is it just individual things that mean something, or is it a sequence of events? And again, we don't really know.
Is AI going to expand that knowledge?
Let's just call it the computer will, but yes. The thing with the artificial intelligence is that we have to load that data in. It's only as smart as the guy loading it. But it can do so much so fast. So you put it takes you 10 years to put 1 million things in there. And I'm sure everybody's got Siri on their phone or Alexa, and you can say, hey, Alexa, what's the president of Moscow? And boom, it comes up with it. So once they take, so it's got all this data in there. Now AI is being programmed, emotional or non-emotional, but to answer questions off of these databases and just searches. It's kind of scary because when they start cloning things and using AI, basically we're going to invent ourselves. And that's pretty scary. But yeah, the computer is very handy with crunching numbers. So that's basically what we're doing with all the different pictograph stuff. And there's, PhDs are working on this all the time. Everybody keeps entering more and more into the database. What I found for my part, the best thing to do is enter good data into the university records, and then when somebody wants to do that kind of a search, they can go back to the university, pull the records. If they want to contact me, it's different. But that answer your question, kind of? Or did I get off on a tangent there? Okay. Anything else? Okay, so where were we? We were talking about panels. Okay, so let's go to a little bit about the pigment. Pigment, of course, had to be made. The most common colors up here are red, black, and white. There are blues and greens in other places. Offhand, the blues and greens, we use something called X-ray fluorescence to see what the fingerprint or the signature of the element is, and then we can tie it back to whatever. And we found with the blues and the greens that they're normally an azurite or malachite. Very little of that. Let's go with the red, the most common one up here. It's normally iron oxide or hematite or a limonite. And our black is normally charcoal or graphite, and our white is usually clay or limestone. Now, using the FRX years ago, over off the lake, there was a site that's been not only vandalized, but when the lake is really high, it gets wave action on it. So in 2010, we did a thing with Forest Service up here on rock art, and we got the mining geologists involved with the X-ray fluorescent machine. And you guys know what that is? Okay, it's basically you hold it a quarter inch away, you shoot it, and it's got, it's taking, X-ray fluorescence is what it's doing. So to explain that mathematically, I can't really do, but it's going to sense it, read back, and tell you what elements are in there. And what it does is it gives you a graph like this, and you take the highs off of it, and it goes into a chart, and it tells you what it is. Geologists use it for gold, silver, up here mostly, iron. So when we shoot the different colors, we can sometimes get those basic elements out of it. So what we found over here was some white that we wanted to do back in 2010, and the geologist, Sequoia National Forest geologist, loaned us the equipment, did it. He took the numbers and crunched it, and he said that the white was limestone. And he said that there's a limestone dike up above, somewhere 20 miles away, and another one over here. So he went and shot those and came back with the fingerprint very close to one of them. So now we figured that's where the source of the white was. There's very little white out here. White is one of the quickest ones to go Black, if it's charcoal, can disappear with moisture over time. So in making it, let's say if we're going to make the red, and we're going to use a simple iron oxide. A lot of the granite up here is very heavy in iron, and you can see sometimes in the quartz the orange strata in there. Sometimes you can get enough that you can pull large amounts of the iron out. You would take this iron and you would heat it and crush it. And the more you heat it, the deeper color it's going to get. It'll go into a brown and then eventually an orange and almost a deep red. Now you're going to mix that with a binder. And the binder is what's going to, hold it together, make it stick to the rock and make it dry hard. So binders that have been used that we come up with off of trying to experiment with these, and some of the ethnographical records mention some of these, but we have animal fat, urine, milkweed, cucumber seed oil, and egg white are probably the most common. Now, when we were doing some experimental archaeology years ago, we made binders. And Dan Reeves, which is another archaeologist, which just passed away just a couple years ago, found that he used all kinds of things, but he found that when we were making the red with iron oxide, that he used animal fat and urine. Now, why that combination seems to work well is, if anybody's ever worked with wood, and it used to be linseed oil, but you take it out, but say linseed oil, you put thinner with it, thin it out, you paint it on the wood. If you just painted the oil on the wood, the oil would not soak into the pores very deep. It's too thick. It's too, and the wood, the pores are fairly tight. But with a thinner, it thins it out, it allows the oil to penetrate deep, and then the thinner evaporates out. So animal fat and urine does something very similar on sandstone and granite. It allows it to soak in, the urine dissipates, also leaves a mineral that dries hard, and then the fat is holding the color, or red or whatever, and it actually penetrates into the rock. Does that make any sense? Okay, so that's a little, and you touched on binders earlier. When they made their binders, how did they do that?
Well, I'm not sure, she wouldn't actually tell us.
Okay.
I
gave away the secret. This is just from experimenting.
Right.
I know that the Native Americans all have their own and what they think, and they could be right, but unless they were there 500 years ago when they were painted and it came down the line, I don't think we really know.
Right. The fascinating thing about Carrie, when she talked about it, well, at least for me, was the fact that they passed down where these locations were to get those. Because, I mean, it's not like you can just dig anywhere for it.
No, yeah, and that's very important. And what they do, especially with the red, they made an ochre, and it would have been like, like a clay ball with this stuff, and you could actually draw on there, but most of it was, after it was, that was traded. And it was a very high trade thing, and we find in our excavations little pieces of it. But you would take that and mix it up again, even with water at that point, and then paint it on. You could paint it on with your finger, and how we know fingers are used is most all the pictographs are that wide. But what we've done is, there's places where they painted it, and they stopped, it pulled off, and when we get a magnifying glass on it, you can see the fingerprint. Okay, so that's a giveaway. The other thing we look for is brush strokes. And brushes could have been, a badger tail was noted in some of the ethnographical records, the stiff little hairs, and yucca brushes. And they used yucca brushes for all kinds of things, but they would make a small, the little bristles on the yucca, you soften and flare it, and then you could do it. We see brush strokes, real fine lines when you see they stroke it. Now remember, these pictographs may have been painted and never touched, they may have been repainted, or some of it may have flaked or chipped off because they didn't get a good bind or bond to it, and they may have touched it up. Using this program D-Stretch, I've been able to sometimes separate the hues and get two different colors of red in, say, a circle, and we went back with the X-ray fluorescence and shot the different points, and we have repeated, but two different types with the colors. Okay, to your eye, they look the same, but when I can separate them, so now we know that we have two different binders or something in the paint. The paint varies in the fingerprint a little bit. So we know that they've been touched up, not completely repainted. Okay, so which also makes it hard to date if it was touched up 100 years later. Some of the Native Americans, especially the Tule Indian Reservation, as, I wouldn't call it punishment, but as their, more of a meditation thing, but they would go in and their spiritual leader would tell them they had to go in and trace so much of this pictograph to get the feeling of the power off of it. I think that came much later. I don't think that these pictographs in the day when they were vivid with the actual people here years ago, I think one person or a number of people touched them. I don't think that was a common thing to go in. That's where the handprints may come in, why there's multiple handprints. You may came back and put your handprints on when you're older. And it goes back to who made this. We don't really know. Okay, so we kind of covered pigments. Any questions on pigments?
Some colors disappear faster than others, don't they?
Yes.
Is that the case around here?
Yeah, it is. White and black disappear quite quick. We actually have some yellow I'll show in here too, which could be a limonite. But the binder has a lot to do with it. So say, one used animal fat, the other used milkweed. Cucumber seed oil was very, if you've seen the wild cucumbers, you break them open, you get the black seeds, crush those. They have a very, very heavy oil, clear. They think that's been used. So that just depends. The main thing why they disappear faster or shorter is the elements that affect them, the sun, the rain, the wind. We'll also show you some silicate or iron silicate where water continues to run down. It actually is preserving the pictograph, but it's covering it so you can't see it. And it's bonding, so I don't think it'll ever be able to be chipped off. Some of it I can pull a little bit out in D-stretch. So let's talk about this D-stretch program. It was invented by John Harmon, and it came from the medical imaging world. So when you do the CAT scans and MRIs and that stuff, you've seen them, all the colors, and this is a muscle, and this is pain, and this is, and they can read that. Well, John took that, and he's a mathematician. He stretched it. So when we pick up, this all started in Photoshop 30 years ago, in the basic Photoshops. But so he took this algorithm, and he stretched it. That's why it came up with D-stretch. And what it does is, if there was a line here, and we can barely see just a little bit, and I'll show you that, there's microscopic pieces in there, and the D-stretch program is able to pick those up and blend them right together to show you what was there. And I think that's going to be somewhat maybe impressive on here. If you guys, who's seen D-stretch? Anybody else got D-stretch? Yeah.
Have you ever used we saw a gentleman who did the layered photography in Canyonlands and the pictographs with using the ultraviolet, the infrared, and the radio photography, and then layering them up. So you're seeing all this stuff that is no longer visible.
That's similar. I think D-stretch has gone far beyond that.
Okay.
D-stretch now is the standard for an archaeologist to do with rock art. John gave this away for 20 years free. And he sold his portion of it to the iPhone people. Now it's called iStretch, D-stretch on your iPhones. Yeah, so, and it's a very handy tool. So between also a quality camera and taking D-stretch on the computer at home is so much better than the iPhones. First of all, some of the iPhones have pretty good cameras, but most of them don't. So you get a bad picture, your D-stretch isn't going to work as good. I actually have D-stretch loaded in my camera. John cracked the code or basically hacked the software for Canon, inserts D-stretch, changed the push button on my camera so I can go through it, so I can look in the field, and then I can actually go through 5 or 6 filters and see, oh, I got something there, and then we go back and take it. In the old days, I just have to shoot everything and then go home and put it on the computer. My first camera that had D-stretch in it was just a very cheap Canon, because it was the only one he could crack the software on, and I would take and locate stuff very fuzzy and de-stretch, pull up my nice camera, take a shot of it, and go over to the computer. Now I've got a high-quality Canon that he was able to take care of the software on it, and it's put de-stretch on for me. He doesn't load that for anybody anymore. I think I was one of the very last ones. This camera was 2016. If I ever lose that camera, I don't want to lose it. Okay, de-stretch also went to Mars. They used it when they were on Mars to read and look at the ground and come up with, and they were ciphering the colors to come up with the different elements and things of that nature. So John was very proud of that. Okay, I think that probably covers the basic. I'm just going to go through a bunch of slides and show you stuff, kind of leave it open, but I'm going to show you photos, and then I'm going to show you, we're going to walk across the different panels with de-stretch, and I'm going to show you stuff that you can't see, and then here's what de-stretch shows. Okay? So let's see if we can get this fired back up again. How do I have to turn it back on?
It's just gone to sleep, I think.
I think we're all set.
No, don't touch that.
Don't touch it.
It's just gone to sleep.
Oh, that's right. I can back it out. That's right. You got to back that out. I'm sorry. I hit space. Now you get, okay. All right. All right. At least, now we have to output it to the projector.
Oh, the projector.
What's going on with
Projector went to sleep.
our projector shut down too?
It was tired. It went to sleep.
I think it's shut down.
I heard it beep and
Might
it's
be.
11.
I do have a hammer in the car if we want to
No,
fix it.
it just went to sleep too.
I think it's just
It takes
sleeping.
a while.
Wake it up.
It wasn't used to not being moved.
They said their alarms were off.
We're gonna need de-stretch to see it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's shut the
Yeah.
lights off.
Yeah. You want to put the lights up?
It's gonna get brighter, but yeah.
There we go.
That's why I moved better. It's asleep.
Sunlight.
I think he's going to.
We won't.
You're not used to this. You're out of time. Do that way. For once in a time.
All right, is that better? So
That looks pretty good.
this site is actually at the lodge at Painted Rock. There's new owners. The old owners, Tom and Debbie, I got involved right away when they bought it, and I did all the de-stretch for them. The journal I left here is the de-stretch stuff that I did when they first bought it. They built staircases and other things. It's behind locked gates. The access is almost impossible, unless you tried to swim the river and climb the cliff, which you could possibly do. But a few of you have been to this site? Yeah. And it's something that I'm going to be contacting the new landowners. If you guys want to set up another trip to go to it, I'm sure they would let us. The idea here is it's in a controlled environment. And that's what, if we get people involved in a site steward program, then they become part of the controlled environment. Therefore, it cuts down on vandalism and other things. Okay, so I'm going to take you through a couple quick de-stretch illustrations. Let me see if I can figure out how to use this, just to show you how the filter works. So we're going to take that panel right there. Okay, now these are my different filters. Okay, this works probably the best on the reds and that. Okay, so there's the second panel. Okay, and we'll start in with that, with de-stretch. And I like this, and I like that. It depends on what I'm trying to do with it. So let's just take this one and look at it, and then we're going to go back to the original. Now, what I'm going to pick up is stuff up here. I'm going to pick up stuff here. I'm going to pick up stuff here. And I'm actually going to pick up stuff down here you can't see. So let's go back to de-stretch. Okay, so what just came in, this here, this I can't make out, but I do have a wheel here. I'm going to show another wheel here a little later. Okay, so let's go.
Mountain bike out to the
Yeah,
bike.
mountain bike.
That's about like to the rust.
Okay, so just a little more of what's there. I'm gonna kind of go through these fast, because I didn't realize how much I actually talked there.
Well, that's okay, don't worry about it.
Oh, this could take 3 or 4 hours.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. Okay, so
I'm in.
this is a little more, I'm gonna start underneath on a ledge, and we're gonna kind of try, and then we're gonna go up to the big pictograph and start picking it apart. So I de-stretch it, I don't get much, but what I do show is I got a little line right here. It doesn't show up, but not much. Zoomorphic figure here, animal-like meaning zoomorphic. And why I say that is the 3 toes figure, possibly lizard. Now we look at this one, and here's what de-stretch does to it. Okay, that one I don't need to de-stretch. That was hidden underneath on the ledge. Now we're going to jump into the big panel. Ryan is 6 foot tall. That shows you the size of the panel and where he is up on the rocks. Okay? So, we're going to go across the bottom of the panel again. What do you see there? I see something here. Here, something here. I actually see something there. Yeah. So let's see what it is. Zoomorphic element? No. Anthropomorph? Probably. Arms, fingers, legs, you can, the feet, the foot is here. This one's almost gone. Let's go back. Okay, so you can see when I pull out of it. Okay, so we're going to shoot across there. Here's another example. You can see a few things there. So, this shows up, these show up, this shows up, this comes into view. Again, some kind of an anthropomorph. This has got the filled body that ties to a lot of other things, especially when you get over to China Lake. The petroglyphs all have full body, and the scientists tie back that to something else that I'm not sure I agree with. But. So we have this one, not a whole lot of difference, but we have the animal pelt. That is very, very common up here, but not as common as it is in the Yokuts in the valley below. Okay? As we go to the desert, it changes. And as we go, say, towards Tehachapi to the Kwaisu, it morphs into more of what I call a ghost figure. The arms go down, and the bottom is closed and it comes open. All the pelt type figures, as they're called. Just a little more now. What pops out here, right here, I pick up another element you can't see. Okay, and we'll go detail on that. Oops, in a minute, I hit the right button. Okay. Yeah. So this is all bird scat and silicate water. So this is bird scat. There's a big nest. It's been going on for years above it, and then the water is running down this, and it's forming a silicate that's covering it. And again, that's going to take away. We can't see through most of that silicate. After a while, it makes it milky, cloudy, and then it completely covers it. Oops. Okay. And you can see the detail that they're pulling out here. I mean, this is all, and this is what's left of it. So now we've got this, and you kind of make out some things there. We've got a wheel. Now, the spoked wheel, as I call it, we kind of feel they're sun symbols. Whether they're circled with the spokes or whether they're just the rays without the circle around it. We have both up here. That is probably the most common symbol up here, if you're looking for styles. But those are all over. They've got them in Yokut territory. They've got some in Chumash, the coast. We have some in Tehachapi. When we get out to the desert, they turn into the concentric circles and spirals instead of the wheels. We don't see the wheels out there very much. So there is the one I picked up on a little while ago that I was showing you on the edge. You see how complex that was at one time. I mean, and there's spaces. You know, this was precisely put there for a reason. Fortunately, we don't know what that reason is. Okay. Just pick up a little more. Another possible pelt figure. As you can see, you know, if you were to look at it as, you know, this is the throat, the arms, which of course the appendages are cut off, the body of the pelt, and then the tail. de-stretch going across. This one's quite interesting. You've got to be measuring something here with this, and this is like half a pelt, but then it's got the full fingers and hands on it, you know, or toes and legs, but it appears to be 3. So, you know, is it zoomorphic? I think it's zoomorphic. I don't have the bottom of it, but it almost looks like a ring-tailed cat with the bottom. But what I pick up on there is over here, all these little prints, and they're going to go all the way across this panel. And I'm just shifting across, so now what I do, I'm picking up more of the prints, and of course this you can see, but other stuff, I've got a little stuff here, but nothing jumping out at me. There's more of the prints again, and again, you know, they're almost impossible to see. Oops, like these buttons are right. Okay, not showing much there, but we definitely have stuff. So I get another little almost pelt figure, can't make out. This is all noise. What it is it's the iron silicate coming down, and so it's got iron in it. The pictograph has iron in it, so it's really hard to distinguish them when we get in there. But what I do pick up on here is this, and that is a little wheel. Okay, and you can see it there, de-stretch, you know, overpowers it with all this, but you can see that it's actually there. Now that's the main panel. We're going to kind of shoot across it, but I want to highlight it. How complex that is. Now, everybody wants to prefer to this as a rattlesnake. We're going to see those in a couple other places. The funny thing here is when you get away from de-stretch, you can kind of see it, but oops, let's go here. Is this tied across? I don't know. And this is the 2 different types of pigment. See how I got the difference in colors? So this was put on, I think, much older at first, and this almost identical here was drawn. We don't have another pelt here, but we have circles for, you know, feet and tail and hands and head or neck. We have another solid pelt here. Now we have these rectilinear. This is probably got the best example of what we have in this area. I would think, I'm sorry, I pushed the wrong button there. I would think this is probably anthropomorphic. It looks to me like somebody with their hands up, and it may not be. That may be our interpretation because, you know, to me, is that a spaceman? Does he have a helmet on? You know, we don't, and does that have anything to do with this? Okay, this has got overpainting in it. We're going to shoot over to it next. Let's take a quick look at it. And it gets very, very complicated over in here. And again, we've got linear lines, circles with dots. We're going to see a lot of that in the next couple. And again, we're going to zoom in on it. What I pick up on here is this little wheel right here. Okay. Oops. Oh, yeah, let me go back. Does that look like an alien?
Yes.
Okay, and now I'm scanning across, so I've got, you know, I'm just taking pieces of it going across. So when I get on that, what jumps out at me is this. It's got bird scat and silicate over it. We can't quite make it out. I'll show it a little while later in my scan. The little wheel shows up better here. What this is, I have no idea, but it's beautiful. I mean, they took time to put it there. It means something. And then we've got these, okay, where's that? We look at it, that shows a little more of it. What fascinates me is this being basically curvilinear, it's linear with curved ends.
I can't put it.
So what we've got going on there, maybe possibly overpainting. These areas are exfoliation, it's chipped off of it. That's a little side piece that I said keeps showing up, I can't make it out. And then this here was where people were stepping to take their photos. And I realized one day that this jumped out at me. and something here, so I de-stretched it. Okay, and what I can't see without de-stretch is this. There it is. So now I've got a complex wheel here. I've got circle, 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 concentric, another circle, and possibly a circle here. There was a mural there, and that could have overpainting, but I'm sure it meant something. I wish I could tell you what it meant. Okay, it's just another version of the filter. Sometimes one or the other work better, but those are the two that work the best. Oops, two. Okay. There's the staircase they put down it. I used to have to slide down this crack to get to that site. Okay, and now I'm just going to show you an overview. There's the one main panel. There's the other panel. The other stuff that we were looking at is underneath this ledge here. Very difficult, a nice site. Great view. Okay, so let's go one more. That's the one panel. And that's the other panel. And I believe that is at the end. Okay, so now if I can get this to, it just came up, what happened?
Jack, I've got a couple of questions. Are you going to change to another slide?
Yeah.
Before we leave this one, I just want to remind everybody that are docents and whatnot, this is the panel that we show in the Indian side. It's the only one we show because it's protected and we can talk about it.
Not to correct you, but Indian site, they tell me it's politically incorrect. Native American was, but now they're not even wanting to go by Native American. So it's hard, what do we call them? I'm not sure at this point. But I know Indian used to be offensive to them for some reason. Even though some of them, like Harold Williams, the Kwaisu elder who passed away, he used to say, I'm an Indian.
First Nation, yeah. In Australia, they call them First Nation.
Yeah, and right now with the big Native American move, that's all going to be redone.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought that was a nice one, though, that
Yeah,
Australia uses.
yeah.
The other point was that we were up there just a year ago?
Right?
Yeah, when was that?
A couple of years.
Was that 2 years ago? Are we still walking on that one panel?
You guys may be, because if you're not with, when I discovered that, I contacted Debbie, and she said, I'll keep people off it, but Debbie's not around anymore. She was with
us when we went last time, it was before the sale.
California.
Yeah, I don't know how I took her through a whole thing on etiquette, and a very nice lady. But I agree, this is a perfect site to go see. Everybody knows not to touch the rock art. You guys aren't going to leave trash there. It has, to my knowledge, no vandalism.
Yeah, that was my third point. The third point is there's a local regional legend that some of the paintings on there were done like 50 years ago.
On that one,
Yeah, I heard that too.
I don't think so. I mean,
Nothing you show that would indicate that.
no, and I left a journal here for your guys' library. Dr. Gold goes through his little thing on there, and he didn't flag anything like that. I remember on that, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, whoever was saying that, they must have had a reason to say it, but I don't believe so. It's very, very vivid, but it's also very well protected. That's why dating is so controversial. And if it was touched up, when was it touched up? If it was, I would say at least a couple hundred years ago, if it was. The time the gold people got up here, the miners, I don't think anything was touched up. I mean, basically the Native Americans were hiding. Them and the miners didn't get along. And that was the demise of them. Okay, so let's get to, you guys, you still good for more? Because I know we're 11. I'll whip through these others pretty quickly. That's the most versatile one for style and elements up here. I'm going to show two others that don't have zoomorphic. I think they're totally linear type, math type stuff. Let's see, what do I have to do here? full screen. Which one was full screen? Here maybe.
Following the one with the arrows over
Which? This
there.
one here.
This one?
There we go. Okay. So this is Kern 797. So where we moved at is from on the river here, and we moved back up somewhere between Keysville and Maggie Flat, way back in the mountains. That gives you a big range. This was a long, hard walk to get to. I took 6 attempts to find it. I went with BLM, who'd been there, we couldn't find it. The dot on the map is about 100 feet above it, but this rock is about 200 foot tall. We stood above it, searched everything, and then when we got down below it, the way it was, we missed it totally. Years later, Brian Adams and I went down and found it. So, and I don't know if you guys know Brian, but he's been a great asset to the rock art up here. Okay, so that's just giving you a size, and of course you can see we just took our packs off, so, but you get about 6 foot, much smaller site. If we start looking at the different geometric elements, there's no zoomorphic, no anthropomorphic, no handprints. All seems to be more science, solar related, maybe celestial, cosmo. I couldn't tell you, but very unique. And this is the stuff that's repeated through here. So we take a little closer look at it, and now I'm going to de-stretch it. And of course, I've got a lot of noise down here. You know, we've got the rectilinear, kind of a curvilinear. This is neat because I think it's a eclipse. Soon, because we have other eclipses over on the coast that they actually traced and show and tie it back to an actual eclipse with sun emblems and other things. We've got the concentric circles. We've got, this is very, very common up here, and we also have them with little knots tied together. Again, you know, we've got the ladder grid, and then this stuff we're going to see at the next site. I have no idea what it means, but we see it repeated in little different shapes. So let's get through this if we can. And I'm going to just de-stretch that up again. And what pops out here at me is this yellow sunburst. We've got another sun. I'm calling it a sunburst. It may not be. Another one here. But these geometric figures, and look at how complex these are. They're not by mistake. They're not graffiti. They're not just put on there. They mean something. We see a lot of, oops, well, okay. There's another one, and let's go in on the de-stretch to it. And again, my yellow sunburst, I'll show you here. I've got one here, and might have one here. I can't tell, or if that's another linear, you know, ladder type diagram. Stuff like this, I have no idea. Definitely means something. Okay, so now I'm going to come back to the paddle. I shot across the top. I'm going to do the bottom of it, and we'll just look at it real quick. And again, what keeps popping out, and I don't have a filter for yellow on yet, I will admit it, but what keeps popping out at me is this. I keep seeing that you normally don't see. Okay, I'm going to take a de-stretch shot again to bring it out. Got a lot of noise there. Again, my yellow keeps popping out at me. Okay, and we're going to just take that. We're back to the beginning. We're just going to zoom in a little and just de-stretch it, just to see if there's anything different, and see if, you know, I'm getting any better resolution out of it. I mean, this one fascinates me. What, you know, it looks like a waffle, but what are they doing? It's linear inside. I mean, it's precisely done, and these fascinate me because they're all over up here.
Hey, Jack?
Those are over the Kelso too.
There are some on
Those circles with a lot.
Yes, yeah. There, and Kelso's a great place for pictographs.
Is there, I don't quite understand this de-stretch, but is there any type of filtered spectacles that one could put on, so when you're there, you just put something on and you would see this?
I'm sure they could put something together on virtual reality headsets, but basically, it has to be a digital picture,
Okay.
okay? So even if you took a picture of a picture digitally, you can put it in D-Stretch. John's able to load D-Stretch, because he's a mathematician and a scientist for computers, into my camera. So I could actually look at it and then go through all the different filters in my lens and see it. I would think that people are probably at some point going to be able to put D-Stretch in and just scan it.
Tablet.
Yeah, but the iPhone won't do that right now because it has to take the image, then it has to take that digital part of that image, and then you have to apply the filters. So I don't think right now the motion, but I'm sure it can be done.
Okay.
I mean, software-wise, things are moving so fast. If you can think about it, somebody can do it. Pretty much. Okay. So I'm just showing you the difference with these. There's my yellow.
Oh,
Yeah. And that is quite different. You don't see a lot of yellow. That could be limonite. Limonite comes from the coast mostly. Now, if we were to pack an X-ray for lesson, the machine's about $70,000 this big. Put it in a case that goes in your bag. We can take that down there and actually zap that and come up with the chemical elements. You know what the material was that the pigment was made out of. Okay. There's the whole panel. And I would just hit it with D-Stretch, and you've seen everything, nothing much pops out at that. This one has very few hidden things. There's the site down. Now I'm going to take it away because we don't want the, well, I'm at the end, okay. Because we aren't supposed to be showing anything that might have a way to find it, even though I don't think you guys would. But that was not impossible. You know, when I do something like this, I do talk to the local archaeologists. Like I said, I did talk to BLM and to Forest Service.
Jack, I can take that shot out when I put it in the computer.
You know, I don't care how long you stood there and backed the range up out here, you couldn't pin it down to there, and it is down the side of another mountain. I mean, I knew about where it was, and I spent 6 times going in there. The first time I walked 12 miles. So it is about 6 miles from the nearest dirt road. So I feel pretty content with that.
Okay.
I did have some nice landscape shots just to show you the settings, which I think really helps. But, you know, politically, I asked not to. Okay, so this is the Kern 3509. And you guys understand the numbering system on this? It would be CA for California Cache, KER for Kern, and then the number it was issued. So the first one we looked at was 17. That was recorded in the 40s. The next one we looked at was 797, which was recorded in the 80s. No, earlier in the 80s, because the 3509 was in the 80s. We are now, and that's just art site number, not rock art. I mean, the rock art is an art site number. Archaeology site number. We are now at 12,000 something art sites in Kern County. The last reports I did, 11 something, 12, what were our numbers, you remember? Yeah, but I know it was, she said we broke 12,000 in Kern County.
Who's assigning these numbers?
Cal State University, San Joaquin Valley Information Center, Archaeological Information Center. It's at Cal State Bakersfield, and they hold the records for Kern County, Kings County, Fresno County. I think Inyo goes to San Bernardino. I think those are just the counties that they have. They may have a couple. They have that big square in the center of Central.
So is there some type of prestige among archaeologists to be able to be the person that found that or enters it, or?
Well, in the early days, I like to put my name on site records to make me look like somebody. You know, at work, I've done just regular site records, not just rock art, hundreds of them. But yeah, what I find when I'm on a project, like we do a record search, we pull them out, I'm like, this guy was all over the place 30 years ago. You know, and then I take that information, and then what we normally do is an update. If I have to go out to a site and we put an update on top of that. So now you've got the records. Yeah, there's a bit of prestige, I guess, for that. But once your ego goes away, prestige is nothing.
We had E.C. Joe came in and he was doing rock climbing, but it was first ascents, and who did the first ascent. So I sort of thought it might be the same way.
Okay, let me get to this last one, because this one is a fantastic site. I can remember what I'm pushing buttons to do this with. It's like this, right?
Okay.
I don't think I'm pushing the right button here. The mouse doesn't want to work. Let's see, let's try this.
No.
I'll use the pad on here that he said doesn't work very good. There we are.
Here we go.
Okay, now let me go full screen just so you have a little better shot at it. Okay, so this is, I have people in there for scale, so you can see how big the site is. This is actually Daniel McCarthy. He is a Forest Service archaeologist. He passed away about 3 years ago from the San Bernardino area, San Diego area. This is 2010. We put on a seminar up here with Kern County Archaeological Society at Sequoia National Forest on rock art. Sequoia didn't know where the site was. The archaeologists up here did it. Now they could have asked other people in the field. They could have told them, but you know, anyway, when they contacted me, I said, yeah, you know where it is. Then they said, well, let's set up a recording on it. Well, as soon as Dan found out about it, and I was, at the time, I was with the American Rock Art Research Association. I was conservation chair. Dan was part of that group and was actually one of the very first members back in 71 or 2 when he opened that group. He says, well, I'm coming up to do that with you. And he did. He came on up and just whatever he transferred through Forest Service and basically came in and helped me run the small project. That time I was a bit green on what we were doing. He was definitely a professional at it. So this site was recorded. Formally, it was already recorded during a logging thing in the 80s, but somehow the record, the dot on the map was wrong. Forest Service didn't have the record, but it may have been removed. Cal State University did, that's where I got the record. Unfortunately, Cal State University and Sequoia don't talk. Sequoia holds their records, the university holds their records. And that seems to be among a lot of the government type things. It's getting better and better, but that exchange of knowledge is something that Forest Service wants to keep it all a secret, and I understand that. That's why I'm very sensitive on what I'm doing here and exposing things. Okay, so let's go through this. Well, first of all, let me kind of point out a few things. We're going to start right under here with these. This ladder diagram, I'm sure is marking the sun. We have another ladder diagram going on the lip here. We have more pictographs here, and then we have pictographs in this back wall, which the bottom ones appear to be older, but water runs right down here, and it's just about this fur leaves. This is all linear type stuff. There is no handprints, no anthropomorphs, no zoomorphic. This is all science. I'm convinced that this is a solstice site. I haven't been able to prove it out, and the reason being is the trees are so thick. These, oops, okay, well, there's the trees I can't see through. Right here is the site. That big old rock sits, oops, I have these buttons. Yeah, sits right there. Okay, so just to, let you know that it's hidden very well. This one also is quite a walk from there is an old logging road close, but still, even off that old logging road, it's way hidden. So we're going to look at the first panel there, and I think we got sunburst. We've got those funny linear things that we saw earlier. Extensions with circles, but we've got these ladder diagram or grids. So let's see what it looks like in D-stretch. The only thing I really picked up on is a couple more circles down below. I do note that this little sunburst type thing up here ties to the bottom of a ladder diagram. We step up now, that was what I just showed. Now it's going across. This here is going to tell a huge story. I just don't know what it is yet. That's put there for a reason. And in some of the other stuff I've published on solstice sites, we've got these ladder diagrams, grids, and we have lines intersecting, and the sun actually travels along that during the seasons, and they've marked it off. And this would be, some points. If the trees weren't there, I could possibly get the shadow effect on it. But I can't do it with, it doesn't work. And when I get sun, there's blotches, and I can't get anything to show up. So I've kind of lost to actually prove it out. So when we de-stretch this, I notice that we've got another one of these little sunbursts starting here. And this stuff all comes in perspective. And these things that other people were calling rattlesnakes that I didn't think were from the first one, we've got those in a number of places. There's another one going through here. But see, I've got kind of a sunburst, kind of another sunburst, concentric circles, grid over, stuff above, stuff below. Something's going on. They're measuring, they're monitoring, they're watching. This type of stuff is probably the most common up here. This is probably the heaviest concentration of it. So what I tried to kind of show is three different things. One that's got all kinds of versatile stuff with a lot of yoke influence. Then I got one that's just got the geometric, and then this one is just intense geometric. So we're just going across it. That just fascinates me. I don't know what's going on. I mean, we've got all the circles going down it. We've got these circles, lines, extension, more behind it. Something's going on there. There's a story going on below here with something. So we've got these snake-type things, and I don't think they're snakes. I think they represent something else. Because when I look at this, see this, I've got the same thing but different when these are circles, lines, and I couldn't tell you what it means, but I've seen them repeated everywhere. So that makes me think, okay, there's something going on, and then this is too complex not to, and everything's put in its own place. Question? Nope. Okay.
I was just thinking, to me it looks like a calendar, like when the
Yeah,
sun gets
exactly.
there, then
Exactly.
you're supposed to do this, whatever it is.
So if
And then when it gets over here, you're supposed to do that, whatever that is.
back in 2000, I published on when was it? I published Lizard Cave.
Yeah.
It has got this same grid going all the way across. It's a full calendar.
Yeah.
Solstice comes in here in summer, and then it just moves itself across. There's an equinox marker. It moves itself all the way across to the winter,
Yeah.
where there's this nice beam of light comes down and intersects it, and then it moves itself back to the equinox and back to the summer,
Yeah.
and it repeats itself. I think I did I send you that one? Yeah. That's something else, if you want up here, I can give you a copy of it. This is why I feel, and calendar, yes, I feel this is a calendar. Be able to prove it now. I could sit there probably with a compass and other things and do all the angles and then look at the almanac and see the sunrise, the angle, the amethyst, and project a light onto it. But then my accuracy may not be right. Anyway, I've got so many other things to play with. And this one I played with a lot in probably in the early 90s when I was doing all my solstice research. And we're still just moving across. And I keep coming up with these little sunburst type things. Or, it looks like it's the rays of the sun. But I'm also picking up on these circles, and they go all the way across. And I'm going to get, and if you see, they start, oops, let me go back. They start here, and they wind up going all the way across this thing. So now I'm moving across a little further. Now what comes in is those circles turn into these circles. They keep going, but now they're connected. I've got one identical to this in Tehachapi, in a cave. I've got another one over in Tulare County that is a circle with those coming on with circles on the end. I mean, look, one of them has got these all the way around it. What I do pick up on now is this stuff down below that we're going to go to in a second. So now I'm almost in the grid. This is exfoliated off. So if we go back, you can see it's actually chipped. So I want to say this is the end, but it could have gone a little further. You know, it could have gone all the way to here. Good point. Okay, now we're going to go in that inside lip of the cave, or the shelter. To be a cave, it has an absence of light. To be a true cave. So it has to go in and turn, or, you know. This has light in it, so it's a shelter. I always refer to the cave. I always wrote cave on my site records, and I've always been told back that, no, it's a shelter, not a cave. They always come back, a cave is absence of light. How are you getting sunlight in your cave? Because a cave, you can't get sunlight in. So, anyway. We're now looking at that upper lip. I think we have stars there. So, when I look at this, I've got these little guys all over. We're going to show a few more. I don't pick up a lot here. You know, there's stuff in here and here that's gone. Now I got more of these little star type things. You know, and I think it has a celestial. And another thing we see very common in this area is these. Now these are real little small circles, and this is long, all tied together. That's all over out here, all the way out to the desert. So, trying to tell you guys a little about style, it's hard to say what, you know, we have this certain style here. Like when you get into Montana, they call it the Dinwiddie style. They're all anthropomorphic, they're all round and fat. Okay? You know, the Chumash have a different style, they're anthropomorphic. We don't have, I can't really put any style to it other than linear and geometric is the most concentrated area I've ever seen. Is right through here, right this Kern River path. All the way down into the mouth of the canyon, there's some of this stuff on Jim Nichols' project, Jim Nichols' property, which I did some stuff on for him and D-Stretch last year again. It ties right down. That's where it stops in Yoket. This type of stuff doesn't continue out into the Yoket area or the valley hardly at all. Okay, now we're moving across it a little more. But again, I keep coming up with these little starbursts. You know, this type stuff, very common, this very common. In some other places we have these, but they're turned up and they look like rainbows. You know, so people call them rainbows this way. I don't know what it is, but I've seen it repeated and quite often. And I'm just moving across that upper lip. And something else pops in here is these little guys are very unique. I think I have another one going on here. I can't see what's here. So this is the drip line. And you can see that it comes down and really messes with this. The water's running this way. These are the little, you know, linear, curvilinear, but we see those like this, with lines between them. We see them tied together. This, very, very common in this area. Now what I show there is, I've got part of a wheel here. This has got silicate covering it so bad. This black is not smoke blackened like they used to think. It is some form of a lichen that actually grows on the rock. Okay, and I may have overpainting. This is down at the very bottom. That's the piece that come up from the top, what I showed earlier in the bottom. And I think we've got possibly overwriting on that or overdrawing. And I think I may have a sunburst here. Possibly another one here. But what's going on over it? And was it scratched out on purpose? But as you can see, you know, D-Stretch doesn't change it a lot, it just sharpens it up. Now, this is pretty neat because what I pick up on is, this wrong button, they're too small.
Yeah, there.
I pick up on this is that part we just saw, the long one, but I pick up on this, and this is all, you know, this is rectilinear, but it's part of a big mural that's gone. But this is, you know, where D-Stretch comes in. Okay. this area. And I actually can drill in with my camera smaller and pull these out as elements. Time's already getting away with this. But, so you can see circles, circle, 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 another circle, bigger circle. It looks like something from this is going off and just gone. So two things with the color coming down here. We have silicate, which forms a kind of a white milky, but we also have iron in the rock. We also have iron in the pictograph paint. So it's forming what I'm calling iron silicate, which is going down the site. And I pushed the wrong button, but there's the site, and we started here. We went across this grid, which I do think that, this is summer, this is winter, and it's not going to be linear. The equinox won't be right in the middle because the sun's at an angle when it comes through it. I do think it's a calendar. I think it's a full year calendar. I'm going to just step right back. I want to go back. I want to explain what we did. So we did this. Then I did upper lip here, and then I did the back wall. That was the stuff with the overwriting, and below that was that piece with the rectilinear that was very faded. And so I'm just going to shoot V-stretch across just to pop out what's there. My favorite. It's so complex. And now you can pick up on this, but we had those other circles all in here. I don't quite have them there at that angle of the lighting, but when I zoomed in earlier at the right angle, I was able to pull them out with V-stretch. I'm done. So, questions?
Great.
Was an excavation done at this site, do you know?
Not legally. When I took Forest Service there, I noticed there were some test pits somebody put in, pot hunters, and the one of the rangers that was with us, I was with the ARC, but the rangers they brought in, went down the back hill and found the stream. So somebody was coming in and screening it.
Are you going to cover what happened during the recent fire at that site and what was done by the Forest Service to protect it?
Well, I remember thinking what year did the fire burn through?
This was the French.
I don't think it touched it.
It did. It burned all around.
Okay.
It was either the French or the one before that, and when we went in there last, there was still parts, a big bunch of fire shelters type material. And someone had gone in, and it looked like
They wrapped it.
they had some success with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't involved in it. I mean, I could ask Tim Kelly on it. I'm just thinking, I was there 2 years ago, and I didn't see any damage from the fire at all.
No.
But the way the site's set up, it's cleared in front with a pictograph. Even if everything burned, unless the wind was blowing towards it, there'd probably be no damage, unless there was heat spalls. And that there's another site going right up 155. When that fire burned through there, the pictograph was in all trees, and you had to go through the scrub oak through it. It burned so hot. The mortars are still there. They were underneath the trees. It blistered pieces this big. The entire rock stalled. Every bit of the pictograph stalled. When I went through the tailings of the pieces, it was so hot that it just incinerated the pigment. And I thought maybe we get pieces to test. Couldn't find it. Fire's a bad thing. And if these sites are known, forestry will try to protect these.
Well, that's what we were hoping, as far as the stewardship concept that we talked with Tim about, is maybe this is something that a group or a splinter group from the museum could be some help in these kind of conditions.
I think that's great. And again, we need to take those through the proper land management. I'm all behind it, and this would be a perfect group for it.
Now, are your trees gone now, so you could actually check out this calendar? No.
No, that's why I say I don't.
It's more open now than in your picture.
Yeah, I don't. I was there 2 years ago. I don't recall any damage to it.
Yeah, we went up recently, and also a lot of the people here had gone on the Granite Basin tour that we just did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And there are 2 granite basins to the east of this site, not more than 100 yards.
Okay.
I thought that was fascinating.
I'm not sure I know about those, but I know where the other granite basins below it are. The other one's out on the main road. I know what two other sets are, and I also know below this one, there is another pictograph. So, but not to give any more location material.
So along with my question, if it had been excavated, so not legally,
There's no record of it,
yeah.
or that I found. But then again, sometimes records get hidden.
So it seems to help add more information and understanding of the
Right.
rock art if an excavation's done. So if, when, who,
Okay. So how that works is, normally it's a student in either master's or PhD program that likes the site, wants to do their thesis there. You contact Forest Service, you get a permit, and you go in and do it. Then you have to log your data, and here's the other problem is, where's the curation go with the artifacts we find? These are all issues. Now they don't want us collecting any artifacts. I leave them there, somebody else is going to pick them up, but, you know, what do?
so pros and cons of even doing
I take
excavation.
excavation, I think, is very important for the science. In the projects I worked for, because the last 12 years of my career, I worked for 2 different companies, but I basically worked for Edison, doing the archaeology, where the power lines and towers go through. We would come in and say they're building a new power line, and they hit a site. They've already engineered it. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to move that tower and restructure around it. So we would come in and do mitigation, find out the sensitivity of the site, go through phase 1, 2, and 3 of it, so everything's been mitigated, and then they can build their thing. It's getting very touchy now with the Native Americans don't want us touching it. I agree a little more with burials to try to stay out of them. I don't know if the burial's 5,000 years old, we can learn something from it, but from the spiritual end of desecrating a grave, you know, a 5,000-year-old grave, the few I've done, I had no problem. You're very meticulous, you remove everything very slow and easy. It goes to the lab, the archaeologist studies it, you can look at the bones, you can say, you know, the teeth are what they look at, you know, age, abscess in the teeth, living styles. I think that's all important. To find out who was here in the beginning, and you know, it's just part of the archaeological record that is buried in the ground. That's a very touchy thing right now. I think excavations may stop, at least in California right now.
And Jack, one of the rationales I've heard for that is that we'll have better technology and better ways of, and more knowledge and better understanding of things later on.
That is true. Until we do the research now, we won't be able to build that technology. So here's how the Forest Service did in Andros National Forest. I had to go out and check on a site because they were building close to it. They said there's 6 burials there, all intact left. Okay. I come out, I look at it, I can't find it. I'm like, wow, I've got a Forest Service building there. They built the building before they found the burials. So what did they do with the burials? They capped them. They made a huge cement concrete parking lot over top. Now, they're protected underneath.
Right.
But when I came out, I didn't have that part of the record. I'm going, okay, so I think my GPS out's wrong. I look at all my directions. I do everything else around it. I come back and say, I can't find it. Oh, well, they're underneath the concrete. They didn't tell you that? So that's gone on for years. In big places, there's a huge one I won't mention in San Diego where they built motels right over top of all the burials. Because it protected them and kept it. We'll come in years later with new technology and dig under the building. It's a hard decision to make, and you have to look at moral versus science. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.